The story begins with a man waking up in complete darkness, confused and unsure where he is or why he cannot move, until a faint glow slowly appears ahead of him and grows bright enough to reveal it is light coming through a small crack in an eggshell surrounding him, through which he sees a forest outside. The sight only raises more questions, and before he can think further, a status screen appears in front of him, and he freezes when it states that he is a dragon egg, a claim so absurd that his mind refuses to accept it. The window expands, and a divine voice explains that it displays his abilities with numerical values. He immediately demands an explanation, but the voice answers calmly that it cannot explain anything yet, because he is still level 1. Acting without thinking, he shakes his body, loses his balance, and falls from the tree he is resting in, hitting the ground and rolling helplessly downhill until he finally stops at a river. When he looks into the water, his reflection removes all doubt, showing him the smooth shape of a dragon egg, and his shock leaves him unable to deny the truth any longer. Seeing how lost he is, the divine voice finally explains his situation, telling him that he is indeed a dragon egg, classified in this world as an F-rank monster. It warns that if his shell breaks completely, he will die instantly, meaning even the small hole he made to see outside is already dangerous. The voice continues by explaining that dragon eggs sit at the bottom of the food chain, yet they hold the potential to grow into powerful dragons if they survive long enough to hatch. Survival is rare, however, because dragon eggs are a favored food among monsters, and without legs, rolling is their only way to move. Even after hearing all this, he still struggles to accept what he has become, but he knows staying still is too risky, so he begins rolling away as fast as he can in search of safety. He rolls off a small cliff, and the system announces that his fall resistance increases from level 1 to level 2, though the impact still lowers his HP and reminds him how fragile he is. Injured and worn out, he chooses to sleep, and when he wakes to find his HP fully restored, he understands that rest completely refills his health. He continues rolling through the forest while wondering what will happen when he finally hatches, and whether his future holds endless fighting just to stay alive. Just then he notices a large insect nearby, and sensing danger, he hides behind a tree and uses his appraisal skill, which identifies the creature as an egg-eater. The moment the insect notices him, it charges with clear intent to kill, and he rolls away as fast as he can, already knowing that he cannot escape forever by speed alone. The creature chases him relentlessly to the edge of a cliff, and when it leaps forward to swallow him, he dodges at the last moment, slamming into it with all his strength and knocking it off the cliff. The monster tumbles down the slope and dies on impact, marking the first battle he ever wins, and the system immediately announces that he has gained 12 experience points and has reached level 5, fully restoring and maximizing his stats while unlocking the conditions for evolution. 2 choices appear before him: Baby Dragon and Little Dragon, and when he hesitates, the system explains the difference, describing the little dragon as a dwarf breed that grows larger than a bear and is known for strong fire breath, while the baby dragon lacks combat strength early on but holds vast potential to evolve into many different dragon types. The system also notes that baby dragons are highly sought after by both monsters and adventurers, making them constant targets, which initially leads him to choose the little dragon as the safer path. The moment he makes that decision, the divine voice intervenes, urging him not to limit himself and reminding him that greater heights demand greater risks. He begins to reconsider, recalling that the baby dragon's strength lies in its future possibilities, and he starts to suspect that the little dragon may have strict limits on how far it can evolve. The thought of choosing safety over growth troubles him, and he decides that living with danger is better than living with regret, even if the path ahead becomes harder. He changes his choice, selecting the baby dragon, and the system accepts his decision without hesitation, and his body immediately begins to change, his form reshaping as he evolves into a yellow baby dragon. And with the transformation comes a surge of new skills, along with major increases to his existing stats. Despite the evolution, his HP and MP remain low, leaving him drained and unable to move much, making it clear that rest is necessary before he can take another step forward in this new form. Soon, he starts feeling hungry, and his stomach growls loudly enough to make it clear that he needs food. He looks at the worm he defeated earlier and realizes that it no longer seems disgusting, and as he understands that growing stronger requires proper nourishment, his dragon instincts take over and push aside any remaining hesitation. He devours the worm and then lies down to rest, and when he wakes later, his body feels refreshed and full of energy. He moves to the river and looks at his reflection, fully accepting that he has been reincarnated into this world, even though he finds it strange that he has no memories of his past life and cannot remember who he once was or what kind of person he used to be. Just then, he notices several dark worms nearby, and instead of running, he charges straight at them, using his new skills to defeat the first group quickly. As he continues fighting, he unlocks more abilities, making each battle smoother and faster, and once the area is clear, hunger returns. Remembering how awful the dark worms taste, he avoids eating them and tries nearby mushrooms instead, only to discover too late that they are poisonous, a mistake that teaches him never to eat random plants again. With that lesson learned, he moves deeper into the forest in search of better prey and soon encounters a gray wolf, which is larger than him, but still falls to his baby breath and dragon punch. The flames lightly scorch the wolf, and the smell reminds him of cooked meat, leading him to roast it further before taking a bite and realizing how good it tastes. He soon defeats another gray wolf just as easily, and this pushes him to level 20 out of 25, making it clear that he needs 5 more levels before he can evolve again. As he eats, he notices that hunting, fighting, and feeding like this no longer feel unnatural, and living as a dragon is slowly becoming normal. Even so, having only the divine voice for company begins to feel lonely, and he finds himself wishing for a companion. Not long after, unfamiliar voices echo through the forest, and although he cannot understand the language, he recognizes them as human and feels a sense of comfort. He hides behind a tree and watches a small group of adventurers approach, briefly considering showing himself, believing that his small size and harmless appearance might keep them from attacking, and even imagining that they might treat him like a pet. Acting on that hope, he steps out and tries to appear non-threatening, but the adventurers see him only as prey, and their leader slashes him across the chest without hesitation. Right after, the man uses magic and numbs his body, leaving him unable to move. Helpless, he lies there and watches the adventurers close in. Their intent is clear. They are going to kill him. He understands too late how foolish it is to believe a dragon could ever coexist with humans. All the struggle to survive and evolve now seems meaningless. But just as the leader raises his weapon to deliver the final blow, a female adventurer steps forward and stops him, arguing that there is no need to kill something so small and harmless. Confused by the sudden turn, he feels warmth spread through his body and realizes she is healing him. And when he uses appraisal, he learns her name is Miria. He notes that she spends what little MP she has to save him. And as she speaks, the system grants him the Greek language skill, allowing him to begin understanding human speech. But the fragile calm breaks when screams echo through the forest ahead. Miria instantly recognizes the voices as her companions and moves to run toward them, and he reaches out to stop her, desperately warning through gestures that what lies ahead is too dangerous to face alone. She pulls away and runs regardless, leaving him behind, and he cannot ignore the thought that the one who saved his life is now in danger because of him. He forces his body to move as he follows her, but when he arrives, he gets frightened to see the monster they are fighting, a C-rank rock dragon with immense endurance, far beyond anything he has faced before. Miria is already injured, and when he calls out to her, the rock dragon shifts its attention to him, but he is just frozen in place, wondering if this is where his struggle finally ends. The baby dragon narrowly dodges an attack and hides behind nearby bushes, knowing that if the rock dragon reaches him in his current state, death is certain. And as he looks back, he sees that Miria is still alive, but has been noticed by the monster, which begins moving toward her. The divine voice urges him to run and survive, warning him that he has no skills or strength capable of defeating the rock dragon, and he understands the truth of those words as he faces the sheer size of the creature. Yet the memory of how Miria saved him without hesitation drives him forward instead of away. He rolls straight toward the rock dragon before it can reach her, weaving through its attacks with his rolling skill, and the system grants him the title King of Evasion as he narrowly avoids death again. While forcing himself to stay focused, he notices that one of Miria's companions lies dead, while the other is still alive but unconscious and bleeding, clinging to life with only a few hit points remaining. The rock dragon attacks again, and knowing he cannot win by force, he uses his movement to draw its attention away, planning to lead it elsewhere and return for the survivors. But the creature unleashes a long-range tremor that strikes him without warning and leaves him with even fewer options. When the rock dragon follows with a bite attack, he counters with Fire Punch, dealing some damage, only to watch the monster recover almost instantly, making it clear that this fight cannot be won. Accepting his limits, he chooses to save Miria, lifting her and fleeing while the rock dragon attacks again, its massive body slowing it just enough to give him the chance to escape. Once he puts enough distance between them, he stops briefly to check her condition and notices her HP continuing to drop from blood loss. And although he considers healing magic, he decides that reaching safety matters more. Remembering the direction Miria came from, he relies on his sense of smell to follow the scent of humans and runs without pause. His path is cut short when a different scent reaches him, warning him that gray wolves are closing in, and he pushes himself harder, only to realize they are surrounding him. With no way out, he sets Miria down and fights despite his exhaustion, and though she remains unconscious, the noise briefly wakes her, allowing her to see him defending her before she slips back into darkness. He defeats the wolves and carries her again, his body barely holding together as he finally reaches a human village and calls out for help, only for his voice to sound like a monster's roar to those who answer with weapons instead of aid. He tries to explain, but a blade pierces his leg, and the hostility in their eyes makes it clear that they see only a threat, not a plea for help. So he gently places Miria down and retreats, trusting that they will care for her once he is gone. The villagers remain on guard, fearing his return, and tend to Miria while he disappears into the distance, wounded but satisfied, knowing she will live. And as he forces himself onward, the divine voice grants him the title Itty Bitty Hero. 2 days later, Miria wakes inside a house in the village, where a girl named Marielle tells her that she treated her wounds using powerful white magic, and that she has been unconscious for 2 full days. Marielle urges her to continue resting, explaining that while the worst has passed, her body still needs time to recover, and Miria lies back down, thinking that someone must have carried her to safety. Now that she knows Miria is safe, Marielle allows her frustration to surface and complains that she has lost count of how many times she warned Dawes not to invite trouble, and Miria immediately asks what happened to Dawes and Grants, since they were both with her when they faced the rock dragon. Marielle hesitates before answering, and tells her that Grants is dead, explaining that his body was found in the woods, crushed and bludgeoned by stone, and she places the blame squarely on Dawes, stating that no sane person would ever challenge a rock dragon. When Miria asks about Dawes, Marielle tells her that his body has not been found, but given the circumstances, it is assumed that he was eaten. Miria realizes that she alone survived. She breaks down and blames herself, insisting that if she had stopped Dawes, none of this would have happened. Marielle tries to comfort her, saying that it is already a miracle that even one of them has returned alive, and reminding her that Dawes never listened to anyone, no matter how often he was warned, and that his choices are not her responsibility. Still crying, Miria insists that Dawes was not a bad person, remembering how he always drove monsters away from the village and how the children admired him for his strength and bravery. She recalls how a villager once mocked him by saying he could never defeat a rock dragon, and how Dawes reacted badly when another person accused him of running away years ago, dismissing it as something from the past, and claiming he could defeat one now if he tried. Later approaching Miria with Grants and claiming that Marielle has given them permission to hunt the rock dragon. Miria remembers doubting the claim and asking where Marielle is, wanting to hear it directly, only for Dawes to insist that Marielle has already left for another village, while pressuring her further by saying that even if she refuses to help, he and Grants will go anyway and might die without her. Faced with that choice, Miria follows them, realizing now that she walks straight into a lie driven by the pride of Dawes. And as she finishes recounting this, Marielle states that his pride cost him his life, and that humans often make fatal decisions over trivial challenges. She warns Miria not to repeat the same mistake, reminding her that pride can kill just as surely as monsters, and Miria quietly agrees, wiping away her tears. Marielle finally smiles and tells her that surviving and reaching the village with such severe wounds is impressive, and this makes Miria suddenly sit up and ask if someone carried her back from the forest. Marielle explains that Miria is found unconscious just outside the village after being attacked by a monster, and that the villagers drive it away before bringing her inside. Miria insists that this cannot be right, explaining that she loses consciousness in the forest after the rock dragon attacks and could not have made it to the village on her own, but Marielle shakes her head and says that no one from the village would wander deep into the forest alone at night. Miria struggles to remember what happened after losing consciousness, and Marielle suggests that the shock may have affected her memory. Miria considers the explanation, yet one image remains clear in her mind, the sight of a baby dragon fighting a pack of gray wolves, which prompts her to ask what the monster near her looked like. Marielle admits that she never saw it clearly because it had already fled by the time she arrived, and Miria chooses not to press further, though she quietly wonders if the dragon she remembers is the same one she met before. Several days later, the baby dragon wakes alone in the forest and finds that all his wounds have healed, and although he already knows that rest restores his body, the speed of his recovery still surprises him. He thinks of Miria and hopes she is safe, recalling how powerless he felt when he saved her, and that makes him realize that even after evolving, his strength is still not enough, and he must grow stronger as quickly as possible. Immediately, he begins hunting dark worms by tying one to a tree and using its call ally's ability to lure the others in, then crushing them in moments once they gather, The divine voice grants him the title wrongdoer, which he finds excessive, though he accepts it but decides not to rely on this method again. He keeps fighting without stopping, and eventually reaches level 25, and the divine voice announces that he has fulfilled the requirements for evolution. He chooses to view the evolution tree and is shown 5 possible paths: mini dragon, mini angel dragon, kid marble dragon, and young plague dragon, with the last immediately standing out as unsettling. Confused by the differences between the options, he asks for explanations, and the divine voice begins with the mini dragon, describing it as a small dragon that grows slowly and has limited evolution paths, though its later stages hold strong potential. Unwilling to choose a path with slow development, he asks about the next option and learns that the mini angel dragon has the protective spirit and specializes in white magic, but lacks strong combat ability. He doesn't like that either, so the divine voice then explains the kid dragon. It is the natural next stage after baby dragon and offers a steady and balanced increase in physical strength. The kid marble dragon is a mutated form of kid dragon with distinctive polka-dotted skin and stronger magic than a normal dragon. This catches his interest, but before he can decide, the divine voice explains the young plague dragon, calling it the first stage of a dragon that spreads disaster, though it has not fully strayed from the righteous path. He immediately rejects the idea, unwilling to choose a form tied to destruction. But the divine voice mentions that it is highly intelligent and can transform into a human. This makes him reconsider, as that power would allow him to enter human villages and escape his solitude, even though the cost of becoming a plague dragon deeply unsettles him.
And that is it for today. If you enjoyed this recap, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and feel free to write whatever you want in the comments section. Thank you for watching.